I really do believe in systemizing and documenting a business because that's what a business is. A business needs to be there sustainable. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow or any manager gets hit by a bus or resigns and leaves, like who's going to be the next person?
From the tools to 275-person staff, Zak Saboune shares how to systemize a multi-trade giant.
Customers are the ones that pay our life and our living. Like without customers, like who's my boss? And people think that's my wife. My wife is not my boss. It's the customer. Because the customer can fire me, use somebody else, take business out of my pool and go to another company. There's only a limited amount of customers and people in life. There's an unlimited amount of money in life. Money can never end, but customers, there's a limitation. You want to be able to retain your customers the best you can, because one customer you lose, that goes to another provider, another company forever.
Before we jump into this episode, I'm going to ask you a quick favor. We're coming up to 500 episodes of the Site Shed podcast now. It's apparent that only a small percentage of people that actually listen to this show follow us on the platform. Following us helps in a big way. It helps us understand the type of content that you want more of, which is why we continue to make better and better episodes. I would be super grateful if you could take a couple of seconds right now just to quickly hit follow on the app you're listening on. That would make the world of difference. Thank you so much for being part of this Site Shed journey. We look forward to sharing the next 500 episodes with you. Zak, welcome to the Site Shed.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
It's been a while coming.
It has. We've been trying to tee up this podcast for how many years now?
Mate, why don't we do this? Why don't we zoom out and travel back circa 2001? You and I are both working for Commodore Plumbing. You were my apprentice. If I was to say to Zak 25 years ago that you and I would be sitting on a podcast today and I'd be interviewing you about being one of the most successful plumbing business owners in Australia, what would you say?
Oh, you know what? It just happens to be luck. I'll be honest. I never planned where I'm at the moment. I'm kind of against business plans and commercial visibilities and how things are going to be predicted, because none of it actually happens, So I take things how they come and deal with things day by day. I find like there was no strategy, no planning on what the success. I just doing all the little things right. And I think if you do all the little things right, you'll grow naturally without trying to stick to a plan or a budget.
Well, mate, before we get stuck in, why don't you just let the listeners and the viewers know who you are and what you do before we get too far into it?
Yeah, sure. Look, my name is Zak Saboune. I'm a plumber by trade, by background. We started back when I was an apprentice. Matt, you're my boss. You made me do a shitty job as being an apprentice. I remember you used to make me the pipe penetrations up the concrete, and we had to cover them. One of my first jobs is covering the pipe from the top, just so no shit goes into them. So I had to get steel and drill in just to protect all the shit going into the pipe. That was one of my first jobs. I used to go all day around the job, just drilling holes, covering the top of the pipe. And that's something that that was the first task that you've given me when I was an apprentice.
You're an apprentice though, right?
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. Look where I got you. You're fucking welcome, you ungrateful prick.
Yeah, man. So I started in the trades as a plumber apprentice, and then worked myself into owning a business, and just got out of the kind of the construction side of thing and got into the residential maintenance side of things. I felt at the time there was nobody really mastering the sort of B2C, business to consumer services. There were a lot of plumbing companies, a lot of trade companies around, but a lot of them were kind of high-rise construction mob, which was fine, and there's a great market for that. But look, when I just finished my apprenticeship and finished my trade, I realised there was nobody really kind of tapping that market, and I feel it was a very niche market, and there's nobody really around doing really well at it. US was doing it really well. US were a lot more advanced in the customer service, but in Australia there wasn't. There was Gary Renoff. I don't know if you remember Gary Renoff Plumbing, and Chiswick was kind of back then as well. There wasn't much guys. There was only a handful. So I seen an opportunity in the market where if you really master the business to consumer really well, you could create a good business out of it.
So I'm curious, with that, so now your business is Service Today, and you would, without question, be one of the larger, probably top 5, home service businesses in Australia for sure. How many guys? Like, how big is the business now?
We turn over close to 100 million in turnover. We've got about maybe 270 staff on the road. Most of them are full-time employees. We dabble into a little bit of contractors, but not too much. Most of the guys are just full-time employees. A little bit offshore. We have a bit of offshore guys as well, not too much. So it's quite a big. Sorry,
staff, like as in like within the business, marketing, tech, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've got a software team. I've got a marketing team. Got my accounts payable. Got a debt recovery team. It's a full kind of setup. And there's times in the growth period where they were outsourced and I was using agencies, and that may apply at your stage of your business. But I think at a certain point where you're big enough, you could sort of own all the departments.
Yeah, sure. Bring it in house. I mean, we see a lot of businesses doing that when they get to a certain point. Normally around the 6 to 10 mil, it's like let's reel this in.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, 175 staff. Is that what you said?
No, 275.
Holy crap. That's a big payroll, man.
Yeah, look, the biggest, especially in Australia, like, we hear the news, labour costs crazy, and it's just labour is very expensive generally, and it is a big burden when we speak to most business owners, like staff and like growing stuff and adding more staff is a burden. But the key is managing productivity and labour. If you have KPIs in place, look, all my staff have KPIs, from apprentices to tradies to office administration. Everyone's got some sort of KPIs. Now, when you're a smaller business, you start to manage based on your eyes and ears. You see what's going on. There's no really KPIs. You don't really understand numbers and KPIs. But as you kind of grow and evolve and put more staff, it's more about the numbers rather than the looking over people. So it can be managed with kind of KPIs and systems and management in place.
So how would you then set KPIs for team members and B, manage and ensure that people are hitting their KPIs? And I suppose thirdly as well, how do you equip them to make sure they're doing their job in a way that they can actually hit their KPIs?
Sure. Look, KPIs, the word is like kind of foreign for most people. Most people don't get managed by KPIs. They just come to work every day, do the day, and think they've done a great job. But most people, they like a finish line, and it doesn't have to be daily. It could be weekly or monthly, and kind of how things are going. Are they performing? What's the benchmark? What were you last year? What are you this year? People like to know where they're at. Nobody likes to run a race not knowing where they're at in the race. So sometimes there's a shock to staff saying, now I'm being managed by KPIs and not foreign to them. And as a manager, as a business owner, you've got to sort of really explain why they're in the first place. They're actually there to help them grow and make more money, because we all want to grow and make more money in life. And me personally, I get led from leaders above me because I want to personally grow. And I also want my team to personally grow as well. And in order to do that, you need to put KPI in the management systems in order to say kind of these are your targets. And it doesn't need to be sales. It could be behavior. That if you want to try and change behavior, like if one of the things you're having in your business is guys coming late to work every time, and you want to manage that, have that KPI. It could be sales. It could be positive reviews. So whatever your kind of business vision is and your mission of your business and what you want to achieve, you tie them into your KPIs to make sure your team is adhering to that level of standards.
And how do you manage the KPIs? Is it through project management software, or is it through sticky notes on a wall? How do you do it?
Yeah. Look, it gets a bit fluffy, and you try to work out the best way to do it. Look, your software's good. There's some amazing software out there that manage, labor productivity, sales targets, reviews. You can manage reviews pretty easily these days, and if that's a KPI. Sometimes you got to kind of get different sources of information. You got to maybe create your Power BI or other things to sort of integrate all the data together. But there's ways you can sort of get all the data and just to understand where things are at and how to. And it also gives you some accountability in performance management. So. I think performance management shouldn't be about having a meeting with somebody just to discuss things, because if you're doing that, it's more of a social gathering and a unproductive meeting. You want to make your meetings productive, and you want to be able to walk out them knowing what they've got to improve and both management and employee on the same page. So putting KPIs in front of them gives them something to work on and keeps them accountable to results.
Quick pause for a second. If this episode's hitting home for you, do us a favor. Please give it a follow on this app. And if possible, please share it with someone that you think would also benefit. This podcast was brought to you by tradiewebguys, where day in, day out, we work with tradies and contractors that are looking for predictable, manageable systems to close more jobs and scale with consistency. It's a proven system that's focused on closing more jobs, not just generating more leads. We have loads of case studies and reviews on the website to back this up if you want to go check it out. If you like the sound of predictable, manageable, and consistent growth, click on the link in the description or head to tradiewebguys.com.au and start the conversation. All right, back to it. So would you and your management team revisit those? Is it like a meeting cadence? Is it like a regular, like monthly, quarterly, or something along those lines where you sit down, you review performance, you look at the numbers, see if you're on track, so on and so forth? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so they do tie into sort of higher targets, and they could be quarterly rocks. There's a great book called EOS, Enterprise Operations Traction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for your guests who haven't read Traction, it's one of my go-to books. Yep. And it's nothing amazing, but it just gives you a business framework on how to manage your team and those and your goals and how that's looking, and making sure your team's aligned to those. And most importantly, having your management team kind of aligned with that as well.
Sure. Yeah. For you guys that aren't familiar, that model EOS that Zak's talking about, there's a book called Traction by a guy called Gino Wickman. And truthfully, we run Traction. We run the EOS model within our business. It's great. But you have like your big company goals, and then everyone has their goals underneath it all attribute towards a certain, they all filter up basically. So it's kind of like a waterfall effect. Everyone's working towards the same thing, and it's very powerful. And do you run the EOS meeting structures as well?
Yeah, you kind of take a little bit of a blend on what's best. Yeah. You don't really need to follow everything to textbook. You kind of want to come up with your kind of spin on things. And look, I learn from a lot of little things, and I get the best of everybody and sort of encompass it into the business.
I mean, and truthfully, like I was thinking about this morning when I was sort of just taking some notes and some things that I want to discuss with you. And if I could like describe you in one way through all the years that I've known you, it is you've always been very studious. You've always been very open to, like feedback, and you've been very open to like learning new things. And I think like my observation, like truthfully with, working within this vertical for a very long time and speaking to some insanely successful business owners, is a lot of them get to a certain point where they kind of, I feel like they feel like they know everything. You know what I mean? And they become less receptive to like concepts, but I've always thought that you've been very open to these things, and I think it's a credit to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's important to be open-minded and learn. Like, I don't know everything. I'm still learning today, and I still make a lot of mistakes, and I still reach out to people from time to time, people like Alan Ferguson and other people. I still reach out to them and pick their brains because there's a lot of smart people out there that I like to kind of get more advice. But yeah, you've got to be open-minded. You've got to like ask questions. No question's a dumb or stupid question, and that's the only way you learn.
And look, I think as well, like a lot of, like today especially, like people will be sort of, like the more successful business owners you speak to, the more you realize that they don't see mistakes as a negative thing. Like a mistake is a lesson to learn something and improve, and I think a lot of people kind of, like when you're smaller and you're starting out, they do see it as like a bit of a cross against their name. Whereas you speak to people like yourselves and you're like, well, I managed to learn this from doing that and I'm not going to do it again. And that's actually some of the questions that I've got looking forward, like want to ask some of those bigger things. But I'm curious, like, when you've sort of been through a journey with your business, and now you're saying you're at a turnover 100 million, which is amazing. What would a, like, it's kind of a vague question, I suppose, but I'm really curious from, going back 20 years to when you started the business, and like, could you ever possibly imagine that you'd be sitting here today with $100 million, plumbing business?
Yeah. No, again, I never planned, never predicted, never had a business coach like hold my hand and saying, this is what you have to do. Like everything I've done is like learn. And like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've lost a lot of money. But yeah, it's kind of there's no win or lose. It's win or learn, and I've learned as well. Yeah, but I think it's just doing all the little things right. It's not there's not one big thing. There's not one main thing. There's just all the little things. You got to get your marketing right. You got to get your website right. You got to get your call center right. You got to get your technicians right. You got to get your customer service right. You got to get your administration right. You got to do your bookkeeping right. You got to chase money right. You got to get all those little things right.
So what is your framework for optimizing those things? I mean, you know, like, do you have like I'm guessing there's like, whether you've documented or not, like Zach, has a process around, okay, well, this is something that I need to get better at. How am I going to do this?
100%. I've documented most of my standard operating procedures. Like, I've got my own intranet. So most staff, and I don't allow my staff to say, "Hey, Zach, where's the spreadsheet that has all the bank account numbers?" or how do you raise a complaint in the system? Like, the person said, "Have you seen the intranet?"
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, go. Make sure your intranet lives on your browser, and that should be the main thing you open up every morning. As well as all the other stuff you use as a daily work. But your internet should be your go-to place. And, I really do believe in systemizing and documenting your business, because, that's what a business is. A business needs to be there sustainable. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, or any manager gets hit by a bus or resigns and leaves, like who's going to be the next person? It's going to be a sustainable business. It's funny because I was speaking to, I've got a lot of friends in business and we're smart guys, or whatever. We're having a discussion about it because I've been offered by private equity. Like, all the time, private equity come knock at my door and they have meetings with me, right? And I know it's getting pretty popular right now, and they're having conversations with me, and I kind of entertain these conversations, and they all look at my financials, talk about EBITDAs and what's your turnover, what's your staff turnover rate, and how big you are, what's your profit, and it's all about the financial aspect, right? But not even one private equity firm has asked me about, do I have any standard operating procedures?
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because they assume you do?
Well, because I believe their attitude and their style of buying businesses is for the wrong reason. Like, if you buy a business based on the numbers, that's never going to last. If you buy a business based on its stable sustainability of customers, which has taken me a lot of time to build in terms of the documentation, like, that's a business. So I don't look at business for the money and the financials. It's just about how are we improving and optimizing process all the time? How are we improving KPIs all the time? If somebody gets hit by a bus, is the business still going to operate tomorrow? Like, if one of my technicians call up in the morning sick and we've got a customer booked in at 7 a.m. in the morning, how do we get to that customer with another alternative without calling up the customer and saying, "Oh, sorry, Jimmy's sick, we can't get there today"? Like, what are the backups in place? And all this stuff requires thought, requires process, requires documentation, and requires a system. And I believe in that. And if I tell you what the secret sauce about building my company, it's all those little things doing that right.
Sure. I mean, I guess, like, you very publicly have said, and I've seen it, that, I'm never going to, I don't want to sell service today. I'm not interested in exit or whatever. I'm curious about that. Like, what, when we've got these, big private equity companies that have, like Lighthouse and the likes of, that have come in and they've spent $200 million in the space of 35 seconds and acquired every major plumbing company in the country over the last few months. I'm curious why that's never been something that's appealed to you.
Again, because look, I love business. I love growing business. I love marketing. I love people. It's like, I wake up every morning loving this stuff. So, like, and life's about enjoying what you do.
Sure.
As much as I like to be fishing all day or go for a surf, I just can't live that lifestyle. I like to sort of be occupied, and I love the challenge.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, does that mean, like, exiting from the plumbing business? It's like, is that like hanging up the boots forever? I mean, surely that you'd be able to focus on other things.
Yeah. Look, there's been discussions I've had. Like, I could consult and help other businesses, and hold their hand with all the mistakes I did, and help them with any issues that they have. There's always possibilities, and the experience that I've built over the years. You can't lose that. It's experience that I've gained that they could use for other places.
So I put the feelers out to my community, and one of the followers came back and, because I said I'm just going to be speaking to you, and you're very well known, and for the better part, as I mentioned offline, like you're very well respected. Like people do genuinely like you, so that's also a testament to someone who's built such a massive business, and everyone doesn't hate. Like I think it's pretty unique in my experience. But
I don't know who the guys are, but give them a thank you from Zach.
So one of the well, I mean, look, truthfully, like you're such a normal, like down to earth sort of dude, and like I think that's absolutely what I've always loved about you. But like one of the questions that came back, and I don't know if you can shed some light on this. What are some of the strategies that Zach leverages to enable him to grow to 30 people in the space of only a few months in a completely new market, with completely new clients? And I think typically he's probably referring to when you're just going, we're just going to open up in, Brisbane or the Gold Coast or whatever it might be. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Look, there's a saying, the best marketer wins. But I don't believe that's true. I think the guy that buys the most amount of cheapest at the cheapest price wins. And why I say the guy that buys the most amount of customers at the cheapest rate.
Right.
Wins. So when you look at business and growing business or growing into new territories like I do all the time, you just need to think about customers, because at the end of the day, customers are the ones that pay our life and our living. Like without customers, like everyone has this joke, like who's my boss? And people think that's my wife. No, my wife isn't my boss. It's the customer, because the customer can fire me, use somebody else, take business out of my pool and go to another company. And there's only a limited amount of customers and people in life. There's an unlimited amount of money in life. Money can never end, but customers, there's a limitation. So you want to be able to retain your customers the best you can, because one customer you lose that goes to another provider, another company forever, you've lost one customer from the pool of people in the world. Mm-hmm. And when I say the best marketer is what I used to say, the best marketer wins. It's buying customers, and that's not only through marketing. It could be because of acquisition. So when I do business acquisition or buy companies, I don't actually buy the business. I buy the customers.
Mm-hmm. And do you do much of that?
Yeah, that's one of my strategies, getting into another territory. How do I dominate and smash a new area? Is I'll buy the customers.
Got it.
And if I buy the customers, cheap, I'm buying the customer database. It gets my entry into that region a lot easier. Now, that's not the only way. You got to back that up with marketing, but marketing takes a bit more time.
So I'm curious now, because when you were talking about how, private equity, approach you and they sit down, they talk about basically turnover, which essentially is a conversation stemming from, okay, well, how many customers do you service and to what capacity? But you're saying essentially the same thing. When you acquire companies, you're not interested in SOPs or any of that stuff either. You're interested in what their customers are. And that obviously, from your perspective, is because you have the engine built and you can just plug your system straight in and ignite that. Would that not be a similar conversation with PE?
You've challenged me there a little bit. I would say no, because they're buying the business and running the business and having an operator and running that business at its own capacity as a business. Mm-hmm. I'm not buying the business. I'm buying the customer. Okay. I'm buying the jobs. And, I really have my ecosystem of systems and processes and software. And I've already got the back-end process. So it's a bit of a different kind of strategy and thought process.
So let's shift gear a little bit, because I'm really keen to explore this. And we're talking about, customer acquisition, sure. So a lot, and just for context as well, Zach, like one of the reasons I did ask you to come on this show is because we have a lot of, clients out there. A lot of them are quite, small and, and some of them are growing. And, when we're running marketing campaigns and things like that for them over at our agency, like a lot of them have this immediate focus on things like, cost per lead, return on ad spend within the month, and all these sort of numbers. And my experience and my feedback to them is often, look, guys, you've got to look a little bit beyond. I mean, you know better than anyone, like buying customers on, through avenues like Google Ads and things like that is quite expensive. But like you said before, if you have a good focus on lifetime value of that customer and what it's actually worth to you holistically, essentially that lead cost initially kind of becomes null and void. So what I really want to explore with you is those two dynamics around, your cost per acquisition on the front end, but then the overall value of that customer within the lifetime of it.
Yeah, 100%. Look, gaining customers and gaining customers' trust is the hardest thing you can do in business. And the question is not about what's your cost per lead or cost per acquisition. It's like, what is that lifetime cycle of that customer? Mm-hmm. What is that customer spending with you over 10 years? How do you own the home? Like, how do you go from the lead to owning the home rather than a lead to a sale? Mm-hmm. Because these customers are so expensive. And how do you maximize the best out of each customer? And I'm not saying rip customers off and be unethical. I'm saying how as a company you could deliver better service to your customer.
Sure. I think this is really important because people need to understand, like there's that, and truth be told, like when you're starting out in business, it is often the case where these advertising avenues are a necessary evil. Like, yes, you have to spend the money and you will always have to spend money, but like the churn and burn mentality is kind of real, like in the early days, whereas as they start evolving and they have these, they start developing these, databases of customers that they've already been able to get in the house of, like, this is where you can really start reducing these ad spends and costs like that, looking forward. So what levers do you pull at Service Today to, improve lifetime value? And what are some of the things that you see working very effectively?
Yeah. So look, one critical part of running, because look, the issue in our industry is we don't have contracts with customers. Okay, they're actually contacts, not customers. Right. In the industry, there's no real relationships. Like in I know Strata. I know guys at Strata. They have a relationship with a body corporate or the Strata management. You might be a real estate. You might have relationships with a real estate agent who keeps giving you the work. But what you got to think about with B2C, a business to the consumer, there's no real relationships. If anything, they actually start up as contacts, not customers. So the question is, how do you create your contacts and your customers and have a relationship with your customers? Yeah. The same way you have a relationship with your strata managers or body corporate. Yeah. Like, that's the question that you've got to ask yourself and try and improve. And one of the best ways to do that is a service agreement. And look, you might call them something else. Each company's call them like, we call them a total care club, which is a service agreement. Some other guys call it, the package plan. And the service agreement is a self-funded marketing program. And I don't know if any of your viewers, Matt, look into that, but it's a self-funded marketing program. It ties the customer into your company. Okay, it creates a relationship with your customer. It's stuff that's gonna, just bond and gel with your customers really well. And you really want to, and that, one of our KPIs is how many memberships we sell per month or per year per tech. That's one of our KPIs, not just sales, how many memberships you're selling, because memberships help create more work and create a relationship with customers, which is what the key. Because remember what I said earlier, the most important thing is the customer, and how do you retain that?
Now, I'm really keen to unpack this because I have been looking for a very long time on this podcast for somebody that does memberships very well with plumbing and electrical. And every time I've had someone on the show, some expert or whatever, they've always gravitated towards lawn care and HVAC or or commercial. And I'm like, I understand how all those work, but I'm really talking for residential. Now, full context and disclosure, I earlier this week I had a conversation with our friend Scotty from Network, and although you guys I think have a very I'll draw the similarities off the back of this because they don't sell a membership and he has reasons for that. You do sell a membership. However, I think you guys do things very, very similarly, perhaps packaged a little bit differently. So I'm very keen to hear how you do the membership model well and how you make it valuable for the customer.
Look, Yeah, look, it's an interesting subject, and each business owner you speak to do it all differently. You said before network plumbing doesn't. They may not. I don't know. You speak to another company, they do it a bit different as well. So I'm just going to tell you what works for our business. And look, I just keep it simple. Look, at the end of the day, it's nothing. It's nothing overly complicated. It's just all it is. You go to Macca's, you're buying a Big Mac meal, $11.95. So to McDonald's, you're a regular customer, right? You walk into Macca's, $11.95 for a hamburger meal, and that's all you're paying. And you're a regular customer. But how about if I said to you, right, it's $11.95 for a Happy Meal, or you could pay $10.50 if you're part of our membership program, right? And then what that means when you sign up today, every time you buy a hamburger or use our services again, you will always pay the cheaper price. Now that feels like a win-win-win.
The question I would have for you is when it comes to okay, so and I'll give you some perspective from the conversation I had with Scotty on this. He says, listen, we don't charge people different prices. We charge everyone the same price, and everybody that we work for, we consider a member. Everybody gets the same treatment. Everybody is exceptional. We don't give anyone any special priority over anyone else. That's how they do it. So, I think conceptually the mindset behind that is, well, we don't want people to feel like they're any less valued than anybody else.
Sorry. Yep. Sorry. Look, again, I don't want to say what other people are doing are right or wrong, but I'm just, going the most logical reason. If you give, and the service agreement or the membership you sell, the customer needs to be able to justify the difference, and that's usually by price. They need to be able to see the value of the service agreement. Now to say, the other person charges each customer the same, irrespective, and everyone has a relationship. Now that might be true, but how do you get the customer feel like they're engaged and being a member if they just pay the same price as everybody else? So I believe the logical way is giving them a separate price, and in your price book should have a separate price for member customers. And that should be very transparent to the customer. So if you're doing any type of service, small, large, medium, good, better, best, whatever way you want to structure your pricing to the customer, there should always be two prices. Mm-hmm. Some of the best guys in the US, Matt Michelle, The Power of Positive Pricing. I'm not sure if any of your guests have read that book. I'll probably start with that book. So some of the best guests in the US and all the big guys, that's their philosophy as well. And that's what I believe as well. Or when you give a customer two price, one's your regular price and one's your membership price. You could pay $900 to get this fixed, or you could pay $800. But if you want the cheaper price, you need to become a member. There's a fee for that. And sometimes with the fee, the cost of the work, it may be more expensive on that visit, right? So it might be $900 for this, or $800 for membership, but the membership might be $150. So what they're paying today is $950. So it's actually more expensive to the customer, right? So it needs to be designed so the customers feel it. Because at the end of the day, if you're selling it cheaper than the regular, it's a no-brainer. Customers are like, I'll become a member. It's like, I'm going to get $50 off. Yeah, I'll be a member. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I've seen my experience in the past where memberships, service agreements, whatever you want to call it, don't work. And then I'll sort of elaborate maybe a little bit further on what I see you doing, which probably is why it does work. So I've spoken to lots of people in the past where they sell a service agreement, and it's like, that's tick, job done. Right? We've got our members now. We've got our client. We've just got a new lifetime client. With job finished. And in most instances, the customer doesn't really give a shit about that. All they're expecting, I suppose, is like what comes next. That is not job done. Like that's sort of the entry point into the program. I think where most businesses drop the ball on memberships is they don't have a solid cadence or a solid machine behind the membership program to, as you say, make them feel the value, make them experience the value. So what does that look like?
Yeah, well, I think it's because they don't believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, your team won't believe in it. If your team doesn't believe in it, your customer doesn't believe in it. It's got to be driven from the top, and it's got to be within your culture. And once you sort of have it in your DNA and your culture, your customers understand. Look, to be honest, we've got these. When customers become members, like service group members, we send them like these VIP cards, and they look like I don't have one in front of me, but they look like kind of credit cards, but they're kind of VIP membership card, and it's got our Service Today logo on it, whatever, and it's got these numbers on there, like credit card kind of numbers on the VIP card. We send that out when they become a member. We send them like a nice letter from the company, welcoming the customer to the family and thanking them for becoming a member, and they get the card, right? Now, when we printed the cards, they were just kind of made up numbers. There's no sequence. It doesn't actually go anywhere. It just looks like a credit card with like fake numbers on it, right? We get a lot of customers calling up and saying, "Oh, we lost our VIP card. We don't have our number, but I need another plumber. I need to fix my toilet." I'm like, "Oh, you lost your card. Oh, that's okay. Oh, what was your name? Blah, blah, blah. Great, whatever." So, like, people think it's real, People actually think they're a member, a part of the member. And they'll call it like, I'm a membership. We get customers complain that they're a member and we haven't given them priority service, because one of our promises of becoming a member is priority service. And sometimes if we can't get there on time, they'll complain that we didn't honor the priority service. They're like, "I'm a VIP member. I'm a service group member, and you're not giving me property." They're complaining. So I believe it's real.
Sure, and exactly. Why wouldn't they? I mean, if you've sold the dream, you've got to deliver on it, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess that's another question that I had is like, okay, well, what? Okay, yeah, you send out a card, but then what? Like, do they get regular communications? Do they get discounted offers? Do they get like house checks like annually? Like, what do they actually get? What does the communication look like? So I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you would communicate to a VIP member is going to be considerably different than the way that you would communicate to a lead.
Yeah, of course. That's kind of your outbound marketing and your remarketing to existing customers. And you need to be a bit careful there, because you don't want to come across as too selling. And how do you come across as, building value? Right. What we do in our company, we'll go out every year. We do a complimentary safety check. Some of my guys are trained over to sort of to look over all the trades. So they'll like check the hot water system, they'll check the aircon filters, they'll check for any surge protectors, smoke alarms, they'll check for water pressure, they'll check the gutter, see if there's any leaves in the roof. They'll just check everything. And you're going to have a really primed up trained guy with a checklist, just go and check everything. And then it's kind of like, and that's a great service. And then kind of you relay back to the customer, and you'd be like, your gutters you got sort of leaks in your gutter, your hot water anode's rusted, that's going to be replaced. You've also got X, Y, whatever he wants to try and push, and the customer sort of most likely will go ahead. So we use that, and that's a customer in the sale that we've never paid for.
Sure. Now I know you. I've seen your board with all the different marketing avenues and things that you guys, do in relation to, getting the message out there and awareness and things like that. And I love that, because I think so often, and again, like, respectful of like businesses that are of different sizes, and some of them are getting started, they don't have a huge amount of budget and their resources are limited and so on and so forth. But I love that you guys really have like a very sort of holistic approach when it comes to marketing, and it's not like we're not sticking all our eggs in the one basket kind of dynamic. Where I'm going with this is I really want to sort of help listeners and viewers get an understanding of what that ecosystem might look like, for a business like yours, so they can maybe draw some comparisons, mental or otherwise, and get an idea.
Yeah, look, everyone thinks marketing is your website, your lead. Like, marketing goes way beyond your website and your lead. It's customer experience. It's the presentation of the technician. It's the uniform. Mm-hmm. It's the interaction with the customer. It's the emails they get after the job. It's the post experience. It's the follow-ups. It's the happy calls. Mm-hmm. It's the whole complete customer experience. Like, that's what the marketing is. So yeah, you've just got to nail all that and get that right. And it is quite difficult because you need to train your people, you need to give them uniform, you need to motivate them, and half the guys don't listen sometimes, so they've got to be managed and motivated. But yeah, so it's just really kind of gone beyond your website and into sort of that customer experience, and then just understanding the journey. If you understand the customer journey, you could just double down and drill down on, at what points do we need to automate this and send them this and whatever.
And so on that topic, like customer journey, sales cycle, things like that, what advice have you got to, the listeners and the viewers out there? And again, I'm sort of asking this as a loaded question because we do see a lot of businesses like with an expectation of, well, if I spend this money this month, I should be closing this much revenue from that spend this month. Whereas I know better because I've seen like the lifetime value equation play in, and I've seen, this perspective on more of a zoomed out version really become a reality.
Yeah, look, I would ask, what's your return customers like? Are you turning and burning customers? And if it's the case, why? Because I've seen these strategies. I've seen guys, and I've seen it all, and I've been through it all. Yeah. I've been guys that bid very high and pay a crazy amount of money for lead, charge a lot of money for the work, and just care about the sale and not the customer, and do a lot of that. But that creates kind of no return business, and it has consequences. So I would ask, like, what's your return customer rate and how are you improving that? How are you talking to your customers? How are you building relationships with your customers? Mm-hmm. Some might say, I send EDMs and whatever. Like, okay, well, what's the quality of your EDMs? Are people just opening them and just deleting them? Like, is it the same shit you get like every day? I'm sure, Matt, you get emails and from like, from your Mr. Shopping from the shops, from these fashion shops, and they send you sales and promotions. Like that like, is it that shit that like people have seen before, or is it something that's going to drag their attention? Is it something that's it's going to give them value by reading? Like not sorry.
Like what?
Like, I've seen, like, for example, it's a new staff member. We've hired this manager. She's welcome to the team. Like, customers don't give a shit. What does that mean? Like how do you get it? They read it like, how is this going to give me value? And it could be, look, go on ChatGPT. There's 1,000 ideas. How you could save on water. The raise of electrical prices. What does that mean for you? How you could save on electricity? And look, that might not turn to a lead, but at least it's quality standard content that they could remember and read and remember your name, and look, you don't have to do a lot of it, but you need to be a bit more strategic with it because, you could easily say, we're going to do EDM, we're going to say, once a month, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's easy to do, but the creative and the content is what you need to think about and get right.
And so would you say, like, I mean, with your business, there's maybe like EDM. So that's emails, by the way, you guys, if you're not sure, like, would there be a suite of different mediums? Like maybe there's a mail out, maybe there's a SMS, maybe there's a phone call, maybe there's a email, maybe there's a package that gets delivered to them. Like, is there a suite of things that happen?
Matt, we still print customer newsletters.
Yeah, right. And what is that?
We still print them. It costs us like 100,000 each time we do a run. With the creative, with the content, with the design, with the printing, with the post office distribution, like, it costs about 100 grand every time we run it. Yeah, well, we still actually print it and send it out to our customers.
And that goes directly to customers or leads or both?
Our membership customers.
Got it. Well, there you go. This is what I'm trying to unpack here. Like, how are we building value? And what does that communication look like differently to your members?
Because if I'm going to send that to all my customers, I'll become broke.
Right.
So how do you select your best customers? And then it entwines back to your service agreement.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. So, like moving on a bit, obviously you've been in business a long time. You've sort of ridden the waves up and down. In hindsight, if you could go back in time, is there anything that you would do differently? Let me ask you this. Sorry, what's one thing you would do differently?
To be honest, I don't know. Look, I have a really good business. I've got amazing people. I've got amazing customers. I've got an amazing brand. I think I'm doing a good job keeping it that way. And like, you know, we get off it all the time with like builders and strata body corporates saying, oh, we have a building. Can you look after that? And can we, and we have these, you know, oh, like I've got a team panel of consultants. We talk about things and we're like, well, like, should we do that? Because we could diversify into a different niche and maybe get into that work. We don't do that type of stuff. And I'm like, no, not interested. I don't want to. I want to stick in my lane and I want to do it really, really well. And I want to be the best at it. Because once you start dabbling into, you know, a bit of strata, a bit of that, a bit of real estate, everything changes. Your workflow changes. The way you answer your phone changes. Your invoicing changes. The way you collect payment changes. The expectation changes. You're not dealing with a customer. You're dealing with another person. Like your workflow's all different. So, like, I stick to B2C. We stick to 100% B2C, and I've been doing the same thing for 20 years.
Yeah,
I acquire businesses that are B2C businesses. I don't acquire businesses that are B2B businesses. I stick to the B2C. Now, I love growing, and the way we grow is adding more services to the consumer. So that customer that's booked, and I said before, how do you go from cost per lead to owning the home? So how do you go to owning the home to adding more services? So we just started garage doors. You know, people laugh like, what's garage doors got to do with like plumbing and electrical, like garage door? I'm like, it's the same shit. People have a problem. They're stressed out. The garage door doesn't open. It's broken. It's not working. They need a Google plumber, or they might know the brand. They call up. There's a service call fee. We go out there. We use upfront pricing. We collect payment. It's the same thing. Right. So I don't like to grow into different verticals and different, you know, customer types, but I like adding more service offering to the same one customer.
Got it.
And I stick to that, and I wouldn't go any other way.
So does that then become part of your communications? Like when you say, hey, listen, I know we just came out and replaced your hot water heater. Did you know these are the other things that we can do as well?
We say on a script on a phone call. So we'll book a job for a hot water system not working, and we'll recap at the end. And this is managed for our phone system. Did you know we could also get an electrician? We also do garage doors. It's coming into summer right now. We could service your record. We recap all that part of that. And I don't know the number, but there's been so many times customers like, oh, you have an electrician as well? Oh, can he come out in the same visit? And we're like, no. Well, it's a separate job, so a different technician. Yeah, so it's like, it's a double whammy.
So this is a conversation then really around, I mean, and this is very relevant to, I suppose, like when I'm talking about the like the zoomed out version of the immediate lead acquisition, because if all of a sudden you can turn a $1,500 hot water heater into a, you know, $5,000 hot water heater and air conditioning service, like you've increased the ticket number size there for not much more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the key is, what's your cost per lead? What's your cost per customer? What's your conversion rate? What's your average sale? What's your return customer rate? And to improve your average sale and your return customer rate, you do have to really think about all the add-ons and cross-sell and other deliverables you could give just to improve that number.
There's surely a lot of moving parts involved in, and I'm sure you've navigated this pretty well, but like I imagine initially if you were like, oh, we're just going to add in electrical into our plumbing business, like, I don't know, because I've spoken to people that have done it and the general feedback is, holy shit, that was a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah, it is very difficult. It does come with a lot of challenges. And it just needs to be managed really, really well. I would advise, are you there, Matt? It feels like it cut off.
Yeah, me. Oh, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry, I just like you paused. Did I pause? No?
No.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just pausing, Matt. Yeah, I can hear you fine, but your screen's pausing. It's probably my internet. My internet's fine. You're a bit paused, Matt, sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Nothing up jagged here. It's recording fine at this end. Have I lost you?
Yeah, got you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we left off, Matt. I think you're talking about the cross trades, another trade to your business.
You were just talking about some of the complications with, like, adding in other trades into an existing business model.
Yeah. Oh, there's compliance issues. You got to find a technical nominee, and you got to find someone that looks after the division, and you just got to deal with those. But once you're past that point, Matt, you could start to sort of manage a customer, manage a business a lot better.
I've got a question, I suppose, before we get to wrapping this up, sort of respectful of your time, of course. You obviously have built a recruiting machine over at Service Today. And to fuel the growth, obviously, with that many staff, you need that always working. I suppose the question is, what does that that entire recruitment model look like in the space of, being attractive to potential people that you could bring in to work for the business, and more importantly, like in the space of onboarding and equipping those new team members to follow the right processes and to be a Service Today representative? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, sometimes it's not 100% recruiting, because it's all about how do you retain your staff and keep your staff. Like the average span of one of my employees is about 12 years.
Wow.
I've had a lot of my staff members, like my management, have been with me for 10 or 12 years. A lot of my techs have been with me for like 10, 15 years, a long time.
Wow.
I retain a lot of my staff, and I try and not be too active in recruiting and not to be too aggressive. I try to retain and keep my staff and grow my current kind of caliber of people. And it all starts with culture and making them feel important. Even end of the year and stuff. We'll send stuff to spouses and wives of the guys. And we'll do family fun days where we'll get the family in and do family stuff, bring the kids, bring the partners, get them really engaged into the culture and community of Service Today. And just kind of looking after them in terms of pay. And it's not always pay. It's job security, it's culture, it's just waking up in the morning and having a job every day. It's just even the little things like not pissing them off. If you're operationally driving a team and things are flip flop, things aren't organized. The guy has to go to a job, but nothing's prepared, nothing's organized. The guy before didn't disclose proper notes, take photos, and the guy goes there, he's pissed off because, man, there's no photos, and this it puts them in a really uncomfortable situation, and they get pissed off, and that's why people leave. They leave because they're just unhappy with the work environment. So a lot of the times, if you improve process communication and just make life easier for the guys, I don't even want guys to go. I don't let my guys go to a supplier, because, as you know, going to a supplier, you're not making money, right? You're not building value, right? How do you make? I want my guys making money, right? And you're not making money going to a supplier. So how do we my driver, and I've got 3 drivers. At the end of the day, they'll box up their inventory. They'll go to the house. They'll drop off what they need the next day in front of the doorstep. So just think about that from a productivity and efficiency standpoint. The tech's got to wake up. He's got this shit outside his front door, loads it in his truck, goes, doesn't have to waste time in supplies. He's happy. He's making money.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a saying which I believe, grass is only greener. Grass is always greener on where you water it. And I water my grass really well every single day, and it's green. And sometimes grass is not always green on the other side.
What about when you're acquiring companies, Zach, and you're bringing on team members that haven't experienced that culture? Like, what does that look like in transitioning them into your culture?
Mate,
turbulent?
I'll tell you something, and we'll probably wrap this up soon. When you're buying these businesses and they say, it has 10 employees, and she's Sally, she's been with me for 12 years, and we've got this is our profit and blah, blah, blah. That's all bullshit, right? You've got to say in your head that all the employees are going to leave tomorrow, right? The financials are all probably not real, right? So you just got to be very careful of that. So to kind of answer your question, but not answer your question, is I don't really rely on the workers and the employees and the numbers. Again, I'm buying the customers.
Right.
And I'll get my team. And a lot of the time, those workers, they're tired. They're sort of there's normally not much technology, and they're tired and they're old school, and they got old computers and old trucks, and then half the time, you're selling those off and not using them because they're old and not working, and it's all kind of in a pretty poor. It's in a pretty poor state, and then even the employees are in a pretty poor state.
So how do you expand into other markets then if you're not bringing the team across?
A recruitment strategy before, recruitment strategy, and I'll bring them to Sydney. I'll train them up in Sydney where my head base is, and I'll fly and I'll mold them to service today way. We've got a kind of a process on how to conduct a service call. Take off the shoes and when to present the price and how to clean up. So we got a kind of documented process. I love documenting, so I kind of go. There's a documented process. And then we kind of mold our guys, Matt, rather than rely on those guys because I don't know those guys, right? And I'm buying the business, I'm buying the customers, and in my experience, most of the guys just leave.
Right.
Not because they're bad people, just the fact that business has been bought out, and the new company's got so much technology, the new company's got so much drive, and most of the time these employees don't fit into that model. It's just because that's their style of they're usually old school, and the systems and software are pretty poor, and they're not used to the shock of and especially when it comes to flat rate pricing. A lot of these companies they do flat rate price. They're all time and material, hourly rate, blah blah blah. You introduce flat rate pricing. Oh, well, this is too expensive. They get that shock. So they're normally not the right type of people.
So let's wrap this up. But I just want to know before we go, what's next for Service today?
Yeah, so, there's external growth and there's possibilities of going to Perth and New Zealand regional areas, bit of franchising in probably some regional areas. There's possibilities there and something that we're thinking about. But really, my success is more internal growth rather than external growth. Internal growth is growing my people and being more profitable. It's sometimes not about growing to different markets and growing wide. It's growing sort of growing profit, and how does that look like? And what I'm really working on is how do we make our machine more efficient and optimize it better, and how do we maybe get into others? Maybe garage doors a bit new, so it has to be green. So we're still trying to work that out and get better and better. I'm not sure if you're any other trades, Matt. Maybe you can help me up and tell me other successes in other industries you work for. Probably not bathroom renovations. We won't be good at it. We won't be good at it. Bathroom renovations is probably difficult to grow because it's very kind of, you've got to be there, you've got to project manage it really, really well. It can be good money.
It's a project versus a job,
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, look, mate, I thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy dude, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but I'm super proud of what you've built, mate, and I think you've done an amazing job. And you keep up the good work because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Matt, anytime, man. So, no worries.
All right, listeners, viewers, that is a wrap. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Matt. See you guys. Bye.
Hey, guys and girls, how would you like all of the value adds left behind from our podcast guest all put together in the one spot? We've pulled every tool together, every template, every resource shared on the show, and we've packed them all into the Tradie Academy. It's free to join and it's built by the team behind the Site Shed and tradiewebguys. Inside, you'll get marketing tips, business tools, and first access to future resources, all in one simple dashboard. Just head across to tradie.wiki/pod. That's tradie.wiki/pod. The link's in the episode description. And once again, you just log in once and then you're all set. And if you want to get notified of upcoming episodes, hit subscribe or follow.